Paul Walker climbed into a red Porsche Carrera GT on November 30, 2013. He told a friend he would be back in 5 minutes. He never came back. For years, the official story blamed speed and nothing else. But witnesses who were there that day remember details that never made it into the final report. A car jiggling in its lane. 9-year-old tires on a 600 horsepower machine. Internal Porsche emails joking about crash rates. And a coroner's finding that Walker was still breathing after impact. As the 13th anniversary of his death approaches this November, the people who saw it happen are finally talking more openly. What they describe changes everything you thought you knew. The day it happened. The day started at Always Evolving Performance Motors, the high-end car shop Paul Walker and Roger Rodas co-owned in an industrial park in Valencia, about 30 miles north of Hollywood. That afternoon, the place felt alive because they were hosting a charity event for Walker's organization, Reach Out Worldwide. It was a car show and toy drive meant to raise money for victims of Typhoon Haiyan, which had hit the Philippines weeks earlier, killing more than 5,000 people. Guests brought an unwrapped toy worth $10 or left a cash donation. Cars shone under the sun while people tried to do something good. As the event wound down, Rodas had his recently acquired red Porsche Carrera GT on display. Jim Thorpe, a car enthusiast and friend of both men who was there that day, later said Walker had never ridden in a Carrera GT before. While people were still milling around, an anonymous witness later told The Hollywood Reporter that the Porsche had been stalling as Rodas tried to back it into the garage. The witness remembered hearing someone say, "Why is the car stalling? Let's take it around the block." That little idea changed everything. A moment later, Walker climbed into the passenger seat and told Thorpe he would be back in 5 minutes to sign autographs. Thorpe later pointed out something important. Rodas did not roar out of the fundraiser or peel away showing off. He pulled out carefully because people were still around. Farther down, the road narrows and bends into a curve where the speed limit drops to about 15 miles per hour. The crash. Somewhere on that stretch, Rodas accelerated to between 80 and 93 miles per hour, about double the posted 45 miles per hour limit. The LA County Coroner's report put it even higher, saying approximately 100 miles per hour. Then came a detail that makes your stomach tighten. An unidentified female witness told investigators she saw the Porsche jiggling back and forth in its lane right before the crash, as if the driver was already losing control. After that, it all happened fast. The vehicle spun and veered in a southeasterly direction. The driver's side slammed into a tree and a concrete light pole with the 45 miles per hour speed limit sign attached. The force spun the car 180 degrees, and the passenger side struck another tree. The impact was so violent that a chunk of the vehicle flew several feet into a nearby building and shattered a window. Security camera footage later obtained by CNN showed the light pole and tree falling at the moment of impact. About 60 seconds after the crash, faint black smoke began to rise. Within 2 minutes, it turned into a thick, dark plume. TMZ later obtained rooftop camera video showing the collision and then a fireball erupting upward. The aftermath at the event. Back at the charity event, the sound carried. People were only a few hundred yards away. The first to reach the wreckage were friends and employees from the shop. Antonio Holmes, a friend of Walker's, described the confusion to the Santa Clarita Valley signal. They heard something, but from where they stood, it was hard to tell what it was. Someone called it in as a vehicle fire. Then people ran, grabbed fire extinguishers, and rushed toward the smoke. When they arrived, the car was already engulfed. Holmes said there was nothing they could do. They burned through extinguisher after extinguisher while the flames kept winning. Jim Thorpe heard the noise too. He described it to CNN as a big bang. His son Brandon, then 28, grabbed a fire extinguisher and led about 20 workers up the hill. But when they got close, the heat and the size of the flames made the truth clear. Brandon estimated the fire was 15 to 20 feet high. Later, Jim Thorpe told The Hollywood Reporter that he was there for his son, who had watched 2 friends burn to death and could do nothing. Someone close to the group, a friend known only as Nen, ran to the front of the car and tried to pull Walker out with his own hands. Deputies pushed him back because of the danger. Then came one of the day's most crushing moments. Rhoda's young son arrived at the scene before anyone could stop him. Torp later said, "The boy knew there was a fire and wanted to see it. He did not understand it was his father until he saw the car. Firefighters had to pull the boy away." The 911 call came about 6 minutes after the crash, around 3:41 p.m. Sheriff's deputies arrived and found the car fully on fire. Both occupants were pronounced dead at the scene. The autopsy findings. Autopsies were performed on December 3, 2013, by the LA County Coroner's Office. For Paul Walker, the cause of death was ruled the combined effects of traumatic and thermal injuries. His body was found severely charred in what the report called a pugilistic stance, a position that can happen after death when heat causes muscles to contract. The list of injuries was brutal: fractured jaw, fractured collarbone, fractured wrist, fractured arm, multiple rib fractures, multiple pelvic fractures, and a spinal fracture. One detail stood out most. His trachea contained scant soot, which indicated he took at least a few breaths after the impact before the fire consumed the cabin. That later became central to Meadow Walker's lawsuit, which claimed her father survived the crash and was alive for about 80 seconds before the fire killed him, trapped by a defective seatbelt. For Roger Rodas, the coroner ruled he died instantly from multiple traumatic injuries, including atlanto-occipital dislocation, meaning his head separated from his spinal column. Unlike Walker, Rodas had no fire-related injuries before death. Both bodies were so badly burned they could not be visually identified. Dental records were used. Toxicology results released on January 3, 2014, brought one part of the story into sharp focus. Both men tested negative for alcohol, cocaine, marijuana, opiates, methamphetamine, and all other screened substances. Neither man was impaired. The car and the tires. The 2005 Porsche Carrera GT had a mythical reputation. It was a mid-engine, rear-wheel drive hypercar with a racing-derived 5.7L V10, making 603 horsepower. It could reach 60 miles per hour in about 3.5 seconds. But what made it famous was what it did not have: electronic stability control. With over 600 horsepower going only to the rear wheels and no electronic safety net, the car had a reputation for snap oversteer. Walter Röhrl, a World Rally champion and Porsche test driver who helped develop the car, said it was the first car in his life that he drove, and felt scared. Internal Porsche emails from 2006, uncovered during Meadow Walker's lawsuit, suggested that about 200 of roughly 1,280 Carrera GTS produced had been totaled within the first 2 years of sales, close to 1 in 6. One manager joked that crashes would make the remaining cars more rare. Another employee admitted that fear stayed in the back of his head every time he got behind the wheel. But one of the most argued factors was the tires. The CHP investigation found the left front and right rear tires were about 9 years old, believed to be the original Michelin factory tires. Porsche's owner's manual recommends replacing tires after 4 years, regardless of tread, because rubber degrades over time. The Carrera GT had only 3,300 miles on the odometer, so the tires looked nearly new, but their chemistry was compromised. The CHP concluded that the car's handling characteristics may have been affected by tire age. Automotive journalist Matt Farah, who knew both men, wrote bluntly, "You could take that corner at 90 miles per hour in a Prius if your tires were not 9 years old." The official conclusion. On March 25, 2014, Commander Mike Parker announced the final conclusion: unsafe speed for the roadway conditions. Key findings included a speed estimate of 80 to 93 miles per hour in a 45 miles per hour zone, no evidence of drag racing or a second vehicle, no mechanical failure, no drugs or alcohol, both men wearing seatbelts, and airbags deploying. Porsche responded by saying the crash was caused by dangerous driving at speeds far too high for the road. No criminal charges were filed. Both deaths were ruled accidental. The lawsuits. Meadow Rainwalker, who was 15 at the time, filed a wrongful death lawsuit on September 28, 2015. The argument was that Walker survived the impact, And the real tragedy was that he could not get out before the fire killed him. The lawsuit claimed Porsche left out electronic stability control, that the seatbelt design was defective and pinned him down, and that rubber fuel lines lacked brake-free fittings, allowing the fire to erupt. During discovery, something dramatic happened. In February 2017, Meadows' lawyers accused Porsche of improperly redacting documents. When the lawyer opened files on his home iMac, the black redaction bars became transparent, revealing internal emails discussing the high crash rate. The case settled on October 16, 2017, with terms kept confidential. Walker's father filed a separate lawsuit that also settled confidentially. Christine Rodas, Roger's widow, had a different outcome. Her case argued a failed suspension component caused the crash. In April 2016, a federal judge granted Porsche summary judgment on every count, finding her expert suspension failure theory speculative and unreliable. The key difference was simple. Rodas died instantly from the impact, so the arguments about being trapped and the fire did not apply. The conspiracy theories. The internet did what it often does. One persistent claim tried to connect Walker to the Clinton Foundation, saying he was killed to silence him. PolitiFact rated that "pants on fire" in February 2020, pointing out that the only real link was that both Walker and the Clinton Foundation were involved in Haiti relief work. Another claim said the car was hit by a drone strike. Even InfoWars dismissed that one. Then there was the faked death idea, which leaned on a blurry image that actually came from Walker's 2005 film Into the Blue. Snopes broke that theory apart by showing what it would require: Walker's family, friends, the Fast and Furious cast, firefighters, and the coroner's office, all acting together in one huge lie. Over 4 months, the investigation involved multiple agencies, data from 3 onboard recorders, Porsche engineers, Michelin, toxicology screens, and 2 full autopsies. Everything kept pointing to the same basic ending. Finishing Furious 7. When Walker died, he had completed about 85% of his scenes for Furious 7. Universal paused production. In the end, the cast chose to continue. Walker's brothers, Cody and Caleb, stepped in as body doubles. Weta Digital mapped Paul Walker's face onto them, creating about 350 additional shots at a reported cost of $50 million. The final scene hit people right in the chest. Dom and Brian's families gather at a beach. They pull up next to each other at a fork in the road, share one last look, and then drive away on separate paths while "See You Again" plays. The screen fades to white, and the words "For Paul" appear. Furious 7 earned over $1.5 billion worldwide. The legacy. Vin Diesel named his daughter Pauline in Walker's honor. Years later, he walked Meadow Walker down the aisle at her 2021 wedding. On what would have been Paul's 42nd birthday in 2015, Meadow launched the Paul Walker Foundation, focusing on marine science and ocean conservation. Walker's humanitarian group, ROW, was remembered for being among the first relief teams to reach the Philippines after Typhoon Haiyan. Some people play a hero. Paul Walker was one.